Ladies and gentlemen, you know what time it is. Start the show. Woo-wee! What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Triple Play Fantasy Baseball Podcast. Of course, partner with Underdog Fantasy, new partner for the show. If you guys would like to take advantage of all the great content over at Underdog, talking about best ball drafts, talking about tons of great different tournaments you can play over there, use code TRIPLE right now, and they will match your 100% of your deposit up to $100. And I'm telling you guys what, Triple Play Fantasy is in there like swimwear. We're doing baseball fantasy drafts all the time over there. Our first mock draft or basically all the drafts we're doing coming out every Saturday on the YouTube channel. It's a blast. It's a good time. And make sure you guys are up on Underdog Fantasy. And it's a great time. But just like our show tonight is going to be a great time. We are joined by the crew, Marty Party, Doc, Little Cheesecake, and a special guest that we'll get to in just a second. Marty, first, I would like to say, how are you doing tonight, and how is your mom doing tonight?
Thank you very much. Susan Beauchamp is doing well. I would assume she is, at home, resting for a nice evening. But thank you for asking. I'll let her know that you said something.
It's the first time we've ever heard her name on the show. So,
yeah, the BEAU champ, as I call her. But anyway, I'm good as well. Did my first Underdog fantasy draft. That was fun. That's a interesting way to do it, and it's actually more fun than I thought it'd be.
We'll be doing it every single Wednesday, coming out every single Saturday. And yeah, it's a good way to get familiar with not just the player pool, but different draft format over there. And we'll be doing a lot of different entries to win some money this year. So it'll be a lot of fun. Little Cheesecake in the house tonight. Also part of those Underdog drafts. He was also making fun of Marty's mother, and he was throwing a lot of sexual innuendos in our video. A lot going on here.
Blasphemy. I would never say anything about Susan Beauchamp. Never. Never. But I'll tell you, transition. This is a pretty good. The Underdog draft did show you how outfield is a pretty shallow pool once you get down to it. You got to draft outfielders in that. And it started to get pretty shallow pretty quick.
It really did. And Doc, you were also part of that. You're also, of course, part of the show every single week here. Tell us, how did you feel like the Underdog draft went?
It went pretty well. I'm just loving the adrenaline rush that I'm getting from all these gambling things that I'm doing recently. Just the more the merrier.
Yeah, it is definitely fun. It's addicting. Obviously, doing it responsibly, of course. I will tell you what, though. We have a guest tonight. He's responsible. He's handsome. And he knows his fantasy baseball. We welcome in a man who is Giovanni Gallegos' biggest fan. This man is a writer and podcaster over on Fangraphs. You've probably heard his podcast before, Sleeper and the Bust. He's also a Twitch partner. He's also a content designer for Out of the Park Baseball, which I believe is new since we last talked to him. He is also a dog dad. He also is the president of the Dub Club and goes hard in the draft room, harder than you at your work party. It is the man, the myth, the legend. It is Paul Sporer. What's up, man?
What's going on, guys? Speaking of doing it responsibly, shouts to your mom, Marty. She's a wonderful woman.
I'm not sure if my mom listens to this, but God, I hope she doesn't listen to this one. I'll have some explaining to do.
Oh, that's why we have Spore on here. He's the clever piece we need.
It started off with me making fun of Art's mom, by the way, and that's just a spiral.
It's like when Waba uses his counter.
Yeah. Well, Paul, man, you do 20 bazillion things right now. But the one thing you have been doing since we last talked is, again, that you are now doing the content design over at Out of the Park Baseball. Tell us a little bit about that.
So they have a game called Perfect Team, which is where you build your team, you play other players. It's a simulator. Out of the Park Baseball is the best baseball simulator there is if you like building teams, and you do if you're listening to a fantasy podcast. But if you want to play a computer game that builds teams, you definitely got to play Out of the Park Baseball. They have an online mode called Perfect Team. You can collect cards throughout the eras. We're talking like 1880s type players all the way up until an Aaron Judge rookie card. Put your team up against others. It simulates every 30 minutes. I'm going to be running the content this year. I'm going to be deciding which cards come out, which ratings they have. It's a very deep game, but it's also so much fun. And I'm really, really excited for this opportunity because, I usually will send them little notes like, hey, this guy's ratings should have been this. This guy's ratings should have been this. Like, okay, dork, you want to do it? And it turns out I'm going to be doing it.
Now, what has been your favorite part about doing all the content with them? Has there been something that sticks out to you more than others?
Honestly, just my right-hand man is a guy named Nico over there who's already been on the team, and I'm nothing without him. He got me acclimated, but just batting around the ratings with him, having the discussions, that's been the most fun part, and just geeking out. I've got this book here that has now become, it's a book I've had for a long time, but it's now become so important to me. It's the Nyer James Guide to Pitchers. And when you talk about anybody before, say, 2002, the internet era, knowing what pitches they have is pretty hard, right? Like, how do you know what some guy in 1946 has? Well, this has everybody, and it has their pitches, and it's an invaluable tool for us to figure out what we want to do to have those cards as accurate as we possibly can. So I've been having a blast with it. The community is great. Again, if you like building teams, playing computer games, and you like simulators, you don't have to have stick skills like MLB The Show. It's a lot of fun.
I'll tell you what, being able to have that type of data available to you to be able to use it like you guys are doing, that it sounds so unique and it sounds so fun.
It's a lot of fun. I
can see why your guys are so passionate about it, because it sends. I don't think anybody else is doing what you guys are doing. So
no, MLB The Show just recently got the Negro League, so OTP's had it for a few years. So learning about players is another thing that I love about the game. Who's this guy? I start looking him up. I get in a wormhole. I'm on 4 different websites learning about these players and finding out, some of their off the field stuff because they're crazy people and things like that. So just learning baseball history, which I'm a huge nerd for, is a kind of a side benefit of playing OTP, whether it's the perfect team or the base game version.
Now, are you having more fun doing that or your Twitch streams? Because your Twitch streams are pretty fun too.
Well, they're kind of one and the same. I stream a lot of out of the park baseball. I have an expansion Expos team right now. We've been playing a lot of that. I did a 15-hour stream over the weekend, which was a lot of fun. So yeah, they kind of go together, and they will continue to, as will MLB The Show. They have their beta out right now for MLB The Show. So it's gonna be a ton of baseball on my Twitch stream all year. And then once the season starts, I'm going to be doing box score reviews in the morning as well. So if you're a baseball fan, twitch.tv/Spore, I got you covered.
15 straight hours. You hear that, and that's all you need to hear, because this man's grinding so much baseball content, and he still found the time to come hang with us tonight.
That's a problem.
I will say, the people.
I was playing the beta. I knew we had the pod tonight. I'm like, okay, I got a couple hours to play. And then when you messaged me, I'm like, oh my God, guys, it's 8:11. I got 5 minutes. I gotta go. So I just had to abruptly end the stream. I was like, I'll be back in an hour, because I'd planned. I was like, I'll play 2 hours. I'll tell them, I'll be back later. It snuck up on me. So I've been enjoying the MLB The Show beta already. It's open to everybody. So if you have a Switch, Xbox, or PlayStation, you can play it and try out the new game. I don't work for them, but I still really like MLB The Show.
Hey, but you know what? Because you were doing all that, you're already in baseball mode. You're already ready to go. Having all the guys ready there. And I'll tell you what, we're going to need you, Paul, because we've got our outfielder episode part 2. So the top part, it's a little bit.
My guys on that picture. Sorry.
Yeah, you like them? That pick 2 good ones?
I like both of them, but one of them is like one of my dudes.
Oh, and I know.
Oh wait, if you say Stanton,
no.
Paul,
I think it's Nootbar.
Of course, it's Nootbar.
Yeah, but it's gonna be fun because he's gonna be a debate later on here. But I'll tell you what, the first episode we get into the top 30. I think easy to talk about the studs, but we get into the little juicier range here, right? We talk about the guys that this is where you can start planning your drafts around getting these guys later on, because you don't have to pick them at the top of your draft. So let's go ahead. Let's kick things off in the 31 to 40 range here. And for everybody, every episode we do the ADP range, basically 10 guys in that range, and then we move into the next range and so on. So guys, 31 through 40 in the outfield over the last 2 weeks. Paul, who is the player that you love in this range?
Look, I know we're paying a bit of a premium for him because he hasn't really put out a full season, but I'm a big time Harrison Bader guy. This is going over a couple years now.
Master Bader, yeah.
And I am a master Bader, and I got no problem with that because I really believe that this guy can put up a huge season. And one of my big fantasy tenets, and I'm not saying I'm the only person that does this, but I fully subscribe to it, is when all the skills are in place and all you really need is health, I'm going to bet on those guys. I love getting those guys. I think it's a lot better than going for the guy who needs his walk rate to improve and his power to go up a grade and his batting average to be a little bit better. Like you need these three things to kind of come together. If all I need is health, I'll take my chances, even on a guy who's had some health problems, right? Bader's had some health issues. I fully grant that. But I think he's got the power and speed to be an absolute stud. I like him in that park. Yes, it's more favorable for lefties than righties, and Bader's a righty in New York, but I like it there. He's at home. He seems to really connect with being back in New York. He obviously had the huge playoff, and I really think he could be like a 2020 type of guy given that full season, 145 plus games, but I'll take like a 15-15 at this price. Even if he does happen to miss games again and play maybe more of like a 130, 125. So I think there's a good range where the outcomes are still pretty good with Bader. I think the only way he busts is if he just totally misses a ton of games like he did last year, which was only 86 games. And even then 5 homers, 17 steals, 250 average. So he didn't murder you, but you need more than that. I need more than 86 games, but I'm a Harrison Bader guy for sure.
Right now, going around pick 175 over the last 43 drafts. And one of the things I think that's also really good is the fact that if you look at the Yankees' just expected roster, he obviously right now roster resource has him batting 6th. Aaron Hicks is projected to start at left field, but you look at just their reserve hitters, Hishioka, backup catcher, you have Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, infielder, GJ LeMahieu's an infielder. The only one right now they're expecting to potentially carry that could play the outfield is as Waldo Cabrera. It's not like the Yankees have a lot of it.
By the way, if I can just throw that in, I really like Oswaldo Cabrera as a super utility. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, but you're good. But the point being that they don't have a lot of depth at the outfield position. So he's going to have even if he struggles a little bit, there are not a lot of guys that are going to be able, to come in and step in unless they be bringing guys up. But again, you look at people like Anthony Volpe, he's an infielder. So like he's their top prospect there. Right. And I just don't see, outside him majorly struggling or getting hurt, him not getting at bats. So I think the accumulation factor of him going at outfielder 41, he can steal bases, like you said, definitely a solid pick here. And
I made one tiny mistake there. I see it's 31 through 40. I only did draft champions. It looks like you guys are doing the full drafts. So I'm going to check my work on the other guys there because draft champions, since they're all the same type of draft, that's why I focused on that. I did have the date range right, but I had the wrong amount of drafts there. So he's technically 41. He should have been in the other group, but I bumped him in there because he is 31 through 40 in draft champions for me.
Well, you know what? I will take the L on that because I should have specified and said all drafts. You're being a very gracious guest, and
no problem.
But I will take the blame for that. But yes, no, I mean, he's right next to that range regardless. So
can I just pile on my Harrison Bader love?
Yeah, because I know you had him as your love in this next range as well, Doc. So go ahead.
Well, remember when the Yankees traded Jordan Montgomery for him? The Yankees were on a winning streak, and then inexplicably they traded a position of weakness for Harrison Bader, who was injured at the time. Like to your point about playing time, they have to make it seem like it's a smart move. But every year he's played 100 games. He's had at least 12 home runs, 17 stolen bases, was a career high last year in the 86 games. The sprint speed's in the 92nd percentile. I mean, roster resource has him hitting 6th. I wouldn't be surprised if he went up to 5th at some point. And the lowest K rate of his career, 19.8. First time it's been under 20%. So, Spore, you and I are agreeing right away.
Let's go.
It's a good deal. It's a good deal. Let's go to another player talk about in this range here. And let's go to you, Marty Party, as you are a big Hunter Renfroe fan this year. Is it just because you can get the power here? Do you think there's more potentially there for a Red Sox lineup that needs hitting?
Angels lineup.
Goodness gracious. He played for the Red Sox last year, right?
2 years ago.
2 years ago. Brewers last year.
He's getting a new team every year.
Yeah, I'm losing track. He's traveling all over the place here for an Angels lineup. Thank you, Spore. They need hitting as well, besides the 2 big studs up the top there. We already know how we feel about Brandon Drury, so we won't bring him up for this episode. But Marty, tell us a little bit Hunter Renfroe, how you feel about him.
Yeah, so Hunter Renfroe was in my MySpace top 8 last year. He will probably be in there again. ADP of 139, 36 outfielder off the board. He's going in around the 9th round. ATC projections have him for 29 home runs, 70 runs, 78 RBI, and batting 241. Right now, he's batting 4th or 5th in the Angels lineup. 5th if Anthony if Redon, if he's going to be okay, who knows how long he'll stay healthy. So he could easily move up into that 4th spot. But yeah, I love the ability to get 30 home runs. He crushes the ball consistently. He's going to be in a prime spot for RBI with Trout and Ohtani hitting in front of him. And last year he hit 29 home runs, only playing 125 games. So it's possible, he gets you that 35 home runs. And there's players going around him where you're kind of hoping that, except their batting average is worse. which is going to be my fade for this area, who I'll get into next, and Stanton, your boy. But yeah, I really like where he's at right now. Renfroe, once again, I think he's still underrated, or actually, you know what? Right now, I think he's rated properly with his ADP.
Yeah, around pick 139. So 36 outfielder off the board. I can't hate that too much there. Pretty solid value. LC, in this range, you're going the homer pick in Ian Happ, who was once known as a free swinger. Strikeout rate was awful, but he's really changed his game over the last couple of years here and looks to be a solid fantasy asset.
I think he's a solid fantasy asset. I think the biggest thing you could say for him is going to hit third or fourth in a Cubs lineup that is better than it was last year. Last year, they were running out Alfonso Rivas and Frank Schwindel and Nick Madrigal and Franmil Reyes was the DH. I mean, last year they had the 22nd most runs in the league. This year, I mean, just the little bit of improvement to the lineup is going to raise all boats in there, and him hitting in that spot is going to give him runs plus RBIs. I also think that he's one of the few guys that's here that you can think maybe will get you double in stolen bases and home runs. His power last season, one thing that's interesting, he doesn't barrel the ball a lot. He doesn't have great barrel percentage, but he hits a lot of his home runs for barrels. That's something that might come down a little bit. His power might come down, but he's had 25 and 17 in the last few years. Still, for me, I still like the speed. I like the fact that he's going to definitely hit some home runs, but I also think the counting stats are definitely going to be there for Happ this year, getting a lot of playing time, hitting third or fourth in that Cubs lineup.
Now, let me ask you guys, I know there was a lot to be made about when he had the injury and how his numbers really changed a couple of years ago. Last year, 17 homers, 72 RBIs, 9 steals, a 271 batting average. Paul, do you see a chance of any type of regression from him, just looking kind of at his batted ball profile, seeing that, that he, in terms of just like the chase rate that he had, his chase contact was the highest of his career while he was also swinging at more pitches. Do you see the potential that maybe that could kind of come back down to what we saw from a couple of years ago? Do you think this is the real Ian Happ? Because I'm looking at just his chase contact percentage being 55.4%, 9% higher than the year before and almost 20% higher than 2020, with the chase rate being the highest it was since 2019. Is there any type of regression we could see from him?
There certainly could be, kind of regressing maybe back. I think his chase rate could actually dip back down closer to his 28-29% career rate, up at 31% this past year for Ian Happ. But also where I think we could see some positive regression, I know it always feels weird to say that because the word regression sounds so negative, but back toward his mean would be in the homer to fly ball rate, which was only at 12%, and he's a career 20%. In fact, he was 26, 27, 24% the last 3 years. Throw out the 27 from 2020. Who cares about those numbers? But 26 in 2019, 24% in 2021, just 12% last year. So maybe that's a place to get some of the power back. Now that would probably have to come with chasing less, right? He's probably making worse contact when Happ is chasing out of the zone. But I do think there is some upside here. He's shown now 2 healthy seasons in a row, over 500 plate appearances, super healthy last year, 158 games. I like this pick. This was almost one of my picks for this zone here. I decided to go with Bader because I like him a little bit more. But I really like Ian Happ. I think he's a quality player. I think a repeat works, but there is upside for even more. So I'm in on this one.
Yeah, Ian Happ definitely really, again, made improvements in his game and seems like a solid pick here. And our friend Giancarlo says Ian Happ hitting behind Swatson may help him as well, give him some more counting stats. Definitely agree with you there, Giancarlo. And Doc, before I'll go to my pick here. I know Bader was the like in your next range, but Nick Castellanos was the like in this range you like. And is it the lineup getting better? Obviously, of course, we're not seeing the Nick Castellanos from a few years ago when he was with Detroit, but you think there's still a lot of value where he's going.
Yeah, this is probably the lowest you've gotten Castellanos in years. Obviously, the lineup does improve. Harper being out, I think, solidifies him as an everyday role if he didn't already have that. Last year was the first year of a 5-year, $100 million plus contract he signed. And remember, the Phillies got really hot at the second half of the season, but they fired Joe Girardi midseason. And when you look at that, he hit 251 versus 288 in the second half. I look at things like his hard hit and barrel percentage being career lows. Slugging percentage was lowest since his rookie season. When you think about it, he's played for teams like the Reds and the Tigers. They haven't always been contenders. And now that I think he's gotten maybe a taste of World Series, what it's like to be so close to winning, that we seem a little bit more motivated coming into camp. And we're going to have regular spring training this year. That's something Bryan Reynolds had mentioned, is there's finally some normality, which I think is going to be kind of a good thing for a lot of players.
Yeah, and I think Castellanos had to have been playing through something last year. I know he did get hurt, had a spell on the IL as well, but like the power fall off there seems so bizarre to me. Now, one thing I've kind of put me back on my back foot a little bit on that, it was Jeff Zimmerman has talked about how in past years he's seen guys like this and said, oh, I'm going to buy back in on the power coming back. But then once they're past 30, that doesn't always come back. So I don't want to overinvest. And if you're a multi-leaguer is what I'm talking about here. Obviously, if you're only in one league, you're either in or out. But as a multi-league player, I'm going to get some Castellanos. I'm probably not going to overdo it, but I like this price. I think he could come back and have a huge season. Maybe not get all the way back to 34 homers, but get us back in the mid-20s with quality run ribby numbers and a good batting average.
Yeah. I think you guys all hit the nail on the head for Nick Castellanos. And he's one of those guys, you get him as second or third outfielder. You're probably fine with that. And he used to be someone to be your first outfielder. So really solid value. I'll keep mine quick, because I want to let Spore and let you guys have a lot more of the conversation here. Brandon Nimmo signed an 8-year contract, $162 million from the Mets. He's going to play as long as he's healthy. And last year, 151 games, by far his most healthy season. In fact, it was the only second season in his career that he's had 140 or more games played. And he had 16 homers, 64 RBIs, a 274, 367, 433 slash line. I think it all comes down here. Brandon Nimmo is going to be great here. He probably will outperform his draft value depending on formats if he stays healthy. I think that's the big question. If he stays healthy, he's a phenomenal pick here. And I'm seeing the right things he's doing. He came out and quoted he's not going to play in the WBC. And he said, I started my training late. He said, if I started my training a month earlier, I would have been ready to go, but I know my body and I wouldn't have been ready to go play. So I'm going to take the next month to make sure my body is ready by opening day, because I anticipate that we're going to be playing another month and a half of the season if we include the postseason that we expect to be in. So he seems like he's playing the long game here. He knows his body. He's got a big contract. The Mets have every reason to make sure that he's out there healthy. So I think Brandon Nimmo is a very good value here. And again, I think the injury risk is the reason why he's not higher.
This would be a great example of the principle I talked about earlier, where the skills were already there with Brandon Nimmo. It's just a matter of staying healthy. He spiked 151 games and everything really came together. Maybe he doesn't play 151 again, but if you get $145, $140, I think you're going to be very happy with the returns on Nimmo.
Yeah, he's one of those guys here. He's a very safe pick in terms of what he can do on the field. Maybe not with the injury history, but like you have Brandon Nimmo as your third or fourth outfielder. And again, you're feeling good about yourself here at the 168th pick of the draft. But let's go to the flip side of the coin in this range, the avoids for all of us here. Spore, who are you avoiding in the 31 to 40 range?
You know, I didn't think I was really out on this guy until I was looking over the projections. And if you guys have been listening to the pod at all, you know, Justin and I are doing our projections by hand this year, really kind of digging in on players. And it's a long process. It's arduous, but I've really enjoyed it. It helps me learn more about the player pool. And it turns out I'm not so keen on Anthony Santander with where he's going right now. And it's not even necessarily an egregious price, but where I got him ranked compared to my colleagues, Jeff and Justin over there, it turns out, hey, I ended up being a bit more negative on him. I've got him outside just right at that 40-41 range then. So just a little bit off the mark of where he's going here. But I do have a little bit of concern. He's outfielder 33 here. And yes, I think the power's legit. And he was one of the few guys that said, oh, the park changed. I didn't even notice, because he went and popped 33 homers, which was great as a switch hitter. He wasn't as affected by it. But he still hit 240. He's still kind of a mediocre to maybe even sometimes kind of bad hitter with power, kind of that all or nothing power type. And I think I can get that profile later. That batting average isn't great. Hunter Renfroe was already showcased in this range. Why would I take Anthony Santander when Hunter Renfroe's there, who's already shown that he can hit those kind of home run totals while hitting for a better batting average? And I don't really see a lot of Santander average upside. I know he had a 248 BABIP last year, but he's a career 245 batting average guy. And so I just don't really see it. This isn't a hate, but it is a dislike in this range, because I do have him 6-7 ranks lower, Anthony Santander for the Orioles.
He was actually my pick here as well, so I'll just add to this too. He was rated, according to Fangraphs, he had a minus 11.6 position adjusted fielding He's rated as one of the worst defensive outfielders in all of baseball. And so the Orioles are looking for every excuse to DH him. I think they're hoping that they can DH him. And that comes down to if he's hitting, he's going to stay in the lineup. And if he's not hitting, he's not. And again, the fact that he can't play defense out there consistently is going to eliminate him having the possibility of being able to play in the field. So if he starts struggling hitting home runs, we already talked about, or Paul did beautifully with the fact that a 240 batting average last year is about probably what you could expect from him. He also has 3 stolen bases since he debuted in 2017. So he's not even giving you any type of stolen bases. At best, he's going to be a 3-category contributor, give you runs, home runs, and RBIs at best. Batting average and stolen bases aren't there. OBP was 318 last year if you're in an OBP league. So that's not great. I'm with you, Spore. This was my avoid in this range as well, because if you want that profile, again, like you said, you can get Hunter Renfroe. You could get guys that give you the potential power upside. Maybe you want to take a shot on Cody Bellinger hitting 30 home runs in Chicago with a new swing, or other guys later on. This is a little too rich for the guy his profile. So I'm with you on avoiding Santander here.
And the only thing I can combat with that is going to 15 to 20 O's games last year. He's the new fan favorite now that Trey Mancini's out.
He is a big fan favorite. That is definitely true with Santander. There's a general 10% loss in stats DHing, by the way. It's just like a known thing that guys are 10% worse. Doesn't mean that it's automatic, right? You can outdo it. But he started 34 games at DH last year, and he got way more than a 10% hit. He was dreadful. 952 when Santander played left field at OPS, 738 when he played right field, 642 as a DH. And he should probably DH 80, 90 plus percent of his games, to be honest, because of that poor defense. So there's a lot of things pulling against him. This is one of those guys that was a great pickup last year because he was kind of forgotten. He popped, and now that the price is raised, I'm pushing off.
I'm with you. Giancarlo says 82% barrel bat with power to left and right field. Definitely has.
That's nice. The pop is there.
Yeah, it is. But again, that's the only thing you can pretty much bank on at this point, because the batting average and everything else isn't there. And Jasper is in on Ian Happ. So another Ian Happ fan club member there. Doc, I'm going to leave the floor to you, because you love to talk about how much you hate Giancarlo Stanton. This is a yearly occurrence from you. So if you want to go ahead and explain the same spiel you do every year, you are welcome to.
I can't believe people are still drafting him at this point. He's made of glass. These are the number of games he's missed the last 4 seasons: 52, 23, 37, and 144. That's a good chunk that you can guarantee he'll miss, and he only gets older. His K percentage was 30.3%, which was the second highest since his rookie season. His 211 batting average was the lowest of his career. He has 0 stolen base upside, doesn't have any steals in the last 2 years. So you're basically banking he hits 30 home runs. And that's it.
I mean, the health factor is a big deal. And Marty, he's also your fade as well. Besides the health risks, are there any other reasons you're fading him?
I mean, even a career low expecting batting average too. So his expecting batting average is down. Yeah, his body, a pure muscle and no dexterity, aging more and more. There's just no way it's going to work out for him. He can still hit the ball harder than anybody, and he'll probably still get you 20 home runs, but that's it. There's nothing else there.
And I would not be surprised if he did not play every day, so the Yankees can preserve him, because they still have to pay a lot of that contract.
Well, the thing is, who are they going to play him? I mean,
Osvaldo Cabrera.
Yeah, yeah, that's the Spores guy, Osvaldo Cabrera. Yeah, I think people know the risk. It's like you put your hand in the cookie jar, and that you could get a chance that your mom catches you, or you're gonna get your hand slapped.
Or Marty's mom catches you.
Right.
She'll get you. She'll get you.
Marty's mom doesn't like when you have your hand in the cookie jar. But I think.
Do you think people still draft him that high because he's a Yankee too? Do you think there's anything to that, or
the Yankee tax?
The Yankee tax I've always felt is a thing, And I will say one thing with Stanton: shallower leagues where you can cover the deficiencies, sure. Because just in 2021 he was great: 35 homers, 97 ribbies, 273. Yeah, but these NFBC leagues that we're talking about, which is where this ADP is generated, a lot of those are 15-team leagues. And I don't really want to mess with Stanton there. As Doc mentioned, he is only getting older. He ain't Benjamin Buttoning. So, he's going to be 33 this year. It is a tough sell, and even in the big season of 21, it was 139 games. He didn't even stay healthy for that year. So you're asking a lot of Stanton to really pay off there, especially to overdo his price. At best, I think you're looking to break even, and I think this is still a pick range where I want to have some upside built in, and I think it's pretty minimal for Stanton. I love him as a player. I've always liked him dating back to when he was called Mike, and as a Marlin. But this is one where I can divorce my heart from my head, and my heart still loves him. My head says don't draft Giancarlo Stanton.
Maybe if he was a San Francisco Giant, because apparently cookies come in a sealed plastic bag, so you could like bubble wrap Giancarlo Stanton. Good point, Giancarlo. Yeah, so
I don't get it.
I don't either. I don't know. I was just going with it. But all right. So last one in this section, LC, before we move to the next range here. Your dislike here is Jeff McNeil, who also just got paid, and just empty batting average for you. Is that the big reason you're fading Jeff McNeil?
Absolutely. Jeff McNeil, last season hit 326, but he had no power. He has no speed. He hits down the lineup, so his counting stats aren't that great. So he is empty batting average, and there's variance on batting average. I don't think he's not a 326 hitter. His expected batting average was 280 last year, and I think that'd be a good thing. If you get 280 from him, that's great. But you can also get someone like Luis Ruiz, like 30 picks later, get someone like Michael Brantley much later. There's a lot of late batting average targets you can get. And I think right now he's up this high because he hit 326 last year. With the variance, he'd have to hit 326 again to kind of be worth this. Well, it would be a little bit better than where he's going now, but like he still has hit like 300 to be worth this price.
Yeah. I mean, who did he hit before this season? If I remember correctly, wasn't he like an under 300 hitter the year before? He had a major bounce back season this year.
The part with guys like Jeff McNeil and Luis Ruiz and Stephen Kwan, yeah, they are batting average guys. Like that is their skill, but there is variance, like LC said, and you can just get burnt by it through no fault of their own. They could just have a bad BABIP luck. I mean, he hit 251, sure, 311, 318, 329 the seasons before that, the partial seasons, but it's so empty. I have no interest in Jeff McNeil.
Jeff McNeil can stay off our draft boards in this range. Let's go to the next range, though, the 41 to 50 range here, as we get a whole new batch of guys to look at. I know there will be a battle here. So let's get the battle started. And Lars Nootbar, one of the cover boys of the show we talked about, he's one of Paul's guys this year. And to be fair, I know if you go on Twitter and you search Lars Nootbar, you'll see his name pop up everywhere. He's a big industry guy this year. Paul, talk the love for him, because LC is going to rain on your parade in a second.
That's fine, and we'll see if he's got anything to really combat it. But I mean, how do you ever counter Cardinals devil magic? Case closed. Thank you. Honestly, I think there's a lot to like here with the plate skills and the power potential. That's a combination that I think is just a winning combo, and with it can come the runs and ribbies, especially if he elevates back to the top of the lineup. I don't know that he's going to necessarily start the season at 1, but I think he could find his way back there. I mean, we're talking about a 15% walk rate last year, 14% in his 471 major league plate appearances without striking out much. And I think the strikeout rate could come down even. He's 21% for his career with a 9% swinging strike rate. That's really, really good. And the power has been a 211 ISO in those 471 plate appearances for Nootbar, 19 homers. I think there's 30 homer upside here if things really break for him. You look at something like his EV95, which is 95th percentile exit velo, and is one of the higher ones for outfielders. I think he really tattoos the ball. You're not going to get any speed. I'm not worried about that. I see projections are like 5 or 6. That's not what I'm looking for here. I think there's batting average upside. I was really actually surprised that it was only 228 last year. You're talking about a 248 BABIP. That goes back to our point about how much variance there is with batting average. But if he gets some variance on the positive end, I really think he can even chase down like a 280 average. Projecting him for more in the 260 range, mid-20s homers, tons of runs and ribbies, kind of depending on where he's in the lineup. I understand there's a lot of hype for Nootbar, but I think the price is still fair here. So I'm paying OF 44 pretty easily. I've got him a decent bit higher than that.
I'll see. Floor is yours.
So, I mean, as you go into research these players, you start to say, "Oh, I'm anti this guy, I'm pro this guy," and it's hard. You look at Nootbar, you look at his StatCast page. He hits the ball hard. He has a high hard hit rate, and he has a good max exit velocity. That power is there. My question, I mean, when you look at how his season went last year, he kind of had one good month and was kind of, or like a good month and a half, and was kind of poor the other rest of the season. And we've been projecting off of that. And I wonder, and the projections kind of echo this, is are we seeing someone who's going to be getting 500 plus plate appearances? Are we seeing someone who's going to get 400 plate appearances? Because the Cardinals will have other players they want to get time. They got Jordan Walker they want to put in the outfield. They got Dylan Carlson, etc. They do like to cycle their players in and out. So for me, my big concern with him is he someone who's going to be giving me the plate appearances? Because I wonder, if he gets cold, they're going to cycle him out. And he got, he wasn't great all of last year. He was really good in August, and he was kind of poor otherwise. So
Nootbar was excellent in July too. And I will say, so
yeah,
your point is taken, but it's 171 of 347 plate appearances. Essentially 50% of his sample in the majors was great. And then look at those BABIPs, the times that he was bad. And really, I mean, April and May, I mean, you're talking 7 games total between those two, 7 starts total, 14 games total. I throw that out. I'm not really interested in that. June, you're talking about 47 plate appearances, 167 BABIP. September, 99 plate appearances, 194 BABIP. I really think he was eaten up by BABIP bad luck with Nootbar struggling in those months. And I don't think he's that low. He's probably not the 345 of July permanently, but if he has like a 285 or better BABIP, I don't really see the struggles here. I love quality plate skills with pop, and I think the playing time is going to be there. Jordan Walker has a good chance to break camp. That is the news lately, so I'm drafting him as such. There's room for all of them, though. The odd man out right now, I think, is Yepes. I think he's the one that needs to be looking over his shoulder. I think that's where the problem is going to come in with O'Neill, Nootbar, Carlson, Walker, playing the 3 outfield and DH. I think it's Yepes that is going to start to lose time there. So there you can have some concern because it's not a long track record for Nootbar, but I think there's big reason. There's easy reasons for why he wasn't good in the little month plus that he wasn't last year.
Go ahead, Elsie.
Well, I mean, and like this is also narrative building. The Cardinals have had a lot of guys pop at the end of a season and come back the next year, draft higher and not. Like Carlson's one of them that has been. I still like Carlson. So, yeah. I mean, he's still good. There's still a good player in there, but it's like, we've been disappointed by the Cardinals, and they'll just move on from him and find the next guy that's pretty good. So that's the other thing is like, if he has a slow month, I don't think he's going to be an everyday player. So like, I am concerned at that, and I'd rather go with someone who I feel is going to get those at bats that I'm sure of, but the upside is better with Nootbar with that power, I think.
If I'm not mistaken, with the sexy candy bar, as we call him on this show, I do believe that wasn't he untouchable when the Cardinals were having trade talks and teams were trying to get. Yeah, for Soto, I was pretty sure he was the untouchable player. So that's just already, you see what the Cardinals feel about him in terms of what they believe his potential could be. You already look at him. I know we talk about him as in terms of. We can't just look at videos in the off season and base that they're going to, translate to production, but he was hitting the ball really hard. There was that shirtless video of him hitting the ball. And I think he was at the max EV. He was getting off of the ball. I mean, the hype train was starting to build, I think, once that video came out. He seems like he's one of the popular breakouts this year. And I'm on one of those people that I'm definitely in on that train. I'm not going to sit here and say I'm the Lars Nootbar guy, but I'm definitely trying to draft him in a bunch of places. I do think he'll get the playing time. He's obviously, we saw a stretch last year of him being able to do it, and he's in a pretty decent lineup, so he'll have a chance to produce. I'm a little bit more on Spore's side in terms of I believe where he's going and what he could give you. I think it's a pretty fair value here. But again,
that's Art losing the argument.
Yeah,
what are you talking about? The season will tell. The season will tell, man.
No, we don't need to play the season. Just
how about this?
We're going to simulate it.
We're going to do our first bet of the show, our friendly bet here. So right now, Lars Nootbar is going as the 44th outfielder at pick 184. Spore, how high would you go to take Nootbar? What would be like the absolute, like what range in terms of?
Let me pull up the ADP here and see where I'd be comfortable, because I'd probably take him. I mean, I'll take him where Santander is, at the 31st outfielder there. Now, I like Casti, I like Bryan, I like Renfroe, but I'd take him in that range. I take Nootbar as high as the early 30s outfielder, which is around pick 130, 140 to secure him, especially if I knew somebody in that draft was also a big Nootbar guy. I'm going to jump out and get him and not be afraid. I really like that he's going 190. If he can stay there, great. But I would set him in on him, which right now over the last 2 weeks there, I think is only like 170. So I'd have to 147. Okay, yeah, I was on Draft Champions again. So 147. I would set him in. I would set him in and go above that 147 for Nootbar.
And LC, how far would he have to drop for you to take him?
Well, I've taken him in a few drafts this year, and part of me,
you're a fraud, is what you're saying.
Well, part of it was like I started doing my research and been like, wow, I've been way in on Nootbar, and now I'm a little bit hesitant. So that's part of the reason why I'm backing off, because I have him a lot already, but he was going later, 200, 205.
Yeah,
Art doesn't want to get hurt. That's what it is. He's just afraid to get hurt.
So Art, so you have him, then you probably would rank him as outside the top 200 guy, correct?
Yeah.
And then, all right, so Spore, you get him inside the top 200.
Easy.
And then Art, you get him outside the top 200. And we'll see who wins. This is going to be a good bet. This is the Lars Nootbar bet. And
I like this one.
Yeah, so Gino says depends on Jordan Walker. Sounds like he'll break camp, but I don't like Spore said. Sounds like that's probably not going to impact Nootbar's playing time here. Marty, let's go to you. Let's talk about your player that you like in this range, and that's going to be a homer pick in Riley Greene. You think the bounce back's coming?
Yeah. Well,
I can't even say it's a bounce back. Give the guy an
opportunity. For both you guys.
Give him, Spore's going to show me some love with this too. But no, I mean, Riley Greene, he can't even say it's a bounce back. I mean, he's a rookie. He's a rookie who broke his foot. He fractured his foot before the season started, and before that, he hit a home run off Garrett Cole in spring training. So he even talked about how fracturing his foot really, slowed him down and threw him off. He had to quickly rehab and get back. He has amazing prospect pedigree. We know that. He's going to be the future for the Tigers, for better or worse. He's hitting third in the lineup. Bad X projects him for 244 batting average, 13 home runs, 65 runs, 55 RBI, and 7 steals. I could easily get the steals to 10. I could see 10, 12 steals. I could see him getting 15, 16, 17 home runs. I watched him crush a ball to like 420 plus feet in Comerica Park. So I know the power is there. He's going to get all of the opportunity possible. And where he's going, I mean, he's going around Lars Nootbar. I think most of you guys would probably pick him. But then Whit Merrifield's in that range. Alex Verdugo. I like the upside of Greene, where he's currently at. And yeah, maybe I'm not gonna say it's a homer thing, but like I'm gonna let this guy who has an amazing pedigree, who had half of a bad season or whatever it is, define himself and give him an opportunity, and he's gonna have all the plate appearances possible.
What do the people that question the Tigers in terms of their development of young players and looking at basically all their young players in the last 10 years and how much they've failed? How much confidence do you have? I mean, even Spencer Torkelson looks like he's. I mean,
here's the thing:
Tork had 1 year.
Yeah, but they completely redid their hitting coach stable. They have 3 completely different hitting coaches. They have a brand new front office. This is a new time for the Detroit Tigers. What's Gino saying here?
And who's really failed? That was good.
Right, that wasn't supposed to.
I mean, the big 3 pitchers. Casey Mize.
Yeah, but that's pitching.
That's pitching. That's totally different.
Let's look at their hitting. Torkelson is.
And you're going to see the Tigers have invested so much in pitching that there are no hitters to even really talk about.
Exactly, and that's just kind of the way the drafts broke. Is that those early picks? You'd rather build through hitting, right? And we're seeing the downside of building your system and your rebuild off of pitching. Yeah, it's not dead yet. Obviously last year was underwhelming. No one's going to pretend that it was good at all. They dropped 11 wins off of 2021. They're supposed to add wins or at least kind of stay in that upper 70s, low 80s. It was bad, but a lot of health issues with the pitching is what happens with pitching, and Tork didn't pop. But I'm not out on Tork yet either. It's 1 year. He was 22 years old. I think Riley Greene playing 93 games as a 21-year-old, he was league average still. He was a 99 OPS plus. He held his own. They tailored the park for left-handed improvements there. I think that's definitely with an eye toward him, not just him, but 5 of the starters are lefties. My boy Akil Badu, I'm back in on him. So, I like Greene as well, and it's a range where I like a lot of guys, so I'm probably not going to be overloaded on Greene. But as a Tigers fan, I'll let my heart drive me to getting at least one share of him.
There's an article on The Athletic that says the Tigers drafted Curtis Granderson in 2002, and it's possible they have not produced a better homegrown player since.
Nick Castellanos,
I believe that.
Relax.
Yeah, Casty would probably be the other one. But yeah, it hasn't been great. But there's a new regime, and I don't think there's been premium picks that have really failed because so many of their top picks have been pitchers. Now, you've got to find guys in that 5th to 15th round range and develop them. That's how you become a winning team. But I think this new Scott Harris regime is going to have to prove that, and they've got time with Torque and Greene.
I'm just being a salty Twins fan because I like to give you guys a hard time, even though we don't have much to hang on either. But hopefully, I mean, if there's anybody that I would be on for Tigers hitting, it would be definitely Riley Greene. He did show some promise last year. I don't think I'll have any of him this year personally. But
when I drafted him, you immediately texted me like, I knew you were going to draft him. Like,
well, yeah, because I knew he's your guy.
First share of him all year.
Yeah, how many drafts have you done though? Like 3 or 4?
Yeah.
And
yeah, so it's early.
Him. He's not overdrafting him. Tigers fans know better.
All right. Is there anybody else? Let's see. I think, Doc, let's go to you for this range. You were talking about, we already talked about we did Harrison Bader. We did Harrison Bader. We talked about the masturbator. And LC, you were talking about Alex Verdugo. That was the guy you liked in this range.
Yeah.
In our underdog draft, you were talking about making sure we got him instead of Lars Nootbar. So that's you're taking your stand there. So go ahead and talk about Alex Verdugo.
Well, I think Alex Verdugo has a solid lineup spot and produces a lot of runs plus RBIs. I actually think that there might be a little bit more power upside. I'm not saying he's a 20 home run guy, but the last 2 years he's had 64 barrels and only produced 24 home runs. So there's, if generally between 50 and 60% of your barrels are for home runs, is what I've heard. So there's 15, 16 home runs in that bat. And the difference for Verdugo between 11 home runs and 16 home runs is huge in his value overall. But I think even if he doesn't go up in home runs, even if he just does get that 12 or 13, and he's going to be producing 140, 150 runs plus RBIs, plus a 280 batting average, both of which are very valuable. That's 3 category contribution at around pick 200. And it's good contribution. You're building a good base in those statistics where you can kind of go after, longer shots at power and speed later. So I like it for like a build type of pick.
You think it's a very safe pick because
I think it's very safe. Yeah.
So it comes down to how you want to build your roster. I can respect that.
I'd probably rather just take Yoshida though, because he's kind of diet Verdugo. And now in this ADP that we're looking at, they're actually right by each other. But for example, when in the draft where I took Yoshida, he was 299 to Verdugo's 207. And it's very rare that Yoshida is going to go before Verdugo. So I think I'm just waiting there. I've liked Verdugo in the past. I will say one thing I disagree on a little bit is the build piece. I find him tough to slot in with the build because he doesn't have that power. So I'm chasing the power after that. But maybe if I've got some guys, maybe not Stanton specifically, we already talked about him, but somebody like that is more of a power, but a batting average deficiency. Verdugo can be a nice combo there. I do have to protect myself from winding up with too many guys like this. This is something that Justin ran into in our main event. He took Benintendi and Verdugo. Like, they can be appealing guys. It's a great plate skill. They do a bit of everything. In this case for Verdugo, he doesn't really run, but all the other categories he does stuff. But if you wind up with too many of those guys, you will fall short in power. So I would say if you're going to take him, just make sure that you've got that power covered, because you can wind up with a deficiency if you take a couple of these guys like that.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And I'm going to be talking about Benintendi later. Don't take both of them. Definitely don't take both of them.
Yeah, Justin, you idiot.
That Marty, when you put the time code in the 49-minute mark, Justin's the idiot. All right, so the guy that I love the most, and he's going to be, we talk about our MySpace top 8 episode, which will be our My Guys episode at the very end here. And Oscar Gonzalez is a my guy. He's in my MySpace top 8, one of my best friends. I go and I see Paul's face, and I know what he's going to say. I know exactly what he's going to say, but you guys got to hear me out with this.
I will.
Okay.
I'll listen.
So I know we could talk about that he doesn't walk 3% walk rate ish is definitely not great. 37th percentile in whiff percentage, first percentile in chase rate. All that stuff is not good. 296, 327, 461 slash line in his rookie season. I think he's the Walmart version of your favorite outfielder because he doesn't get talked about, but he's like that less appealing version. 11 homers and 43 REIs, a 788 OPS in 91 games in just barely over half a season. You look at his swinging, the way he swings at pitches outside the zone, and you must think he strikes out a crazy amount, but he struck out in under 20% of at-bats at the major league level and 14% of at-bats in 41 games at AAA last season. And you may be like, okay, maybe that's just one season. Well, keep in mind that he's never actually even had a strikeout rate above 24.9% since he was in high A ball in 2019. Consistently under 20%, except for just a little bit of about 77 games between 2021 and 2022. This is a guy that I really don't think is going to strike out more than maybe 21% of the time. Definitely not going to walk. This is a guy that could approach, in best case scenario, somewhere near a 200 ISO, I believe. 20 home runs, 20 plus home run power, going to give you 70 plus RBIs. He's going to be in the main part of the Cleveland Guardians lineup, and Cleveland Guardians lineup, I think that's very underrated. And I think, again, you're getting him. People always just look over him and just skip him. And I think he's a tremendous value going here. I think he actually could slide down continuously. And I think people are sleeping on the potential power that he could have. He hits the ball so incredibly hard. If you look at on his StatCast page, the max EV and XBA, both in the 91 plus percentile. I think he's one of those guys that maybe StatCast doesn't love him, but we talk about Vlad Guerrero, talk about how much he swings outside the zone and he can make contact. This guy, I think, just knows how to make contact, even if he's free swinging. I'm all in on Oscar Gonzalez.
I think he's going to strike out a lot more than that. I'm so nervous about this guy. I mean, he only struck out 20% last year, like you said, but a 14% swinging strike rate is very scary. He was able to survive it in AAA last year, but didn't in the extended sample of 2021 when he struck out 25%. And it just puts such an onus on his BABIP and that power. And he only had a 166 ISO last year. I just think there's major volatility here. The price is not so egregious that you can't get in on Oscar Gonzalez, but this is a guy that I think his fans are going to overload on him, and there's major bust potential here. I'm very afraid of Oscar Gonzalez.
Spore, real quick, you're on the clock and you have an open utility spot. Who are you taking, Oscar Gonzalez or Ty France?
Ty France.
I mean, Oscar Gonzalez had his own contact of 82% last year.
That's nice.
He was making a lot of contact.
48% chase rate.
Yeah, but again, still struck out under 20% of at bats, and it's rookie season too.
So the league didn't have the book on him yet. They're going to expose this kid. I think he gets exposed this year. I'm
my
nervous.
God! All right, we have to have a second.
Put it on the board. Put it on the board. He's getting exposed.
I'm so all for Oscar Gonzalez. You have no idea. So again, are we going to look at range here, like where you're comfortable drafting him? Because he's right now going at 186, outfielder 45. If you look at the ADP, where would you feel comfortable taking him?
His max is 221. I wouldn't even really want to do that.
Wow. Okay, wait. So 221 is right around outfielder 53, 54.
I'm going to take my boy Will Myers there, 237, who I think is.
Wow.
Just put those two against each other. I got to spike health, but I'll take the shot that Will
Myers versus Oscar Gonzalez.
Yeah.
All right. You know what? That's fair.
Yeah, that's Brian, pretty good bet.
Brian, we got another bet going. Yeah, that's right. Oscar Gonzalez versus Hunter, or I would say Hunter Renfroe
versus Will Myers.
Versus Will Myers. All right, that sounds good to me. And like Gino points out, arm strength 99%. He's a freak. He's gonna.
I don't doubt that he'll play. They traded Will Benson. They cleared up some of that outfield, but I don't think he's going to be as good as he was this past year. I think Oscar Gonzalez just has a lot of risk that's a little bit being overlooked by his proponents because of some of the good things that he did this past year. And I see that swing and miss the league's going to expose him.
All right. Well, Oscar Gonzalez and Will Myers, will keep an eye on that. Let's move, because I don't want to keep Spore here all night. Let's go to the fade range here. We'll go a little quicker with the fade in this range. And Paul, who is your fade in the 41 to 50 range?
All right. Well, it was Oscar Gonzalez, so I kind of already said that. So I'll give the other one. It's Joey Meneses. Look, it's a little bit lazy to go with the Frank Schwindel of this year, but I mean, it really smells of that. It's not even that I think he's going to be terrible either. Like, I think he can have some solid power. He's not hitting 324 again or anywhere close to be honest. I think he's more of like a 250 guy, 20-something homers. And the biggest problem here is something that's a little bit out of his control. It's the runs and ribbies. I think they're going to be a nightmare on that team. And thus, I just really think that he's not going to pay off at that level there. It might feel like this is that in that range, especially if you're playing 15 teamers where you're like, oh, this is cheap because the pick type starts with a 2, I think, with him, or at least a late 1. These are still players that are supposed to be high impact players for you. Like, you can't afford Joey Meneses to necessarily totally bust there. He's a pick 188 in this range that we're looking at with a min of 31. Oh, let's check out that guy's brain to make sure he doesn't have CTE. Whoever took him at 31, holy hell! But yeah, it's funny. I have him and Oscar Gonzalez right by each other in my outfield rankings.
Oh,
72
Paul.
and 73 respectively.
Paul, can we at least get a look over those rankings? That's upsetting to me. Just the fact that you're making me upset. Can we change that?
They're going to be out. They're gonna all be out. But yeah, I got him for 255, 23 homers, 60 runs, 65 ribbies for Meneses. Those are low run ribbies totals. 23 homers is fine. 255 is fine. But nah, I'm fading him easily. There's no way I want this breakout right now. And honestly, there's one I'll be rooting against myself because he's a fun story. So if he pops off, that's cool. I'll take the L. No chance I'm betting on it, though. No chance.
Doc and I are both actually had this as our fades as well. You don't see too many 30-year-old breakouts. You talked about, what was it?
Schwindel.
Thank you, Frank Schwindel, Rafael Ortega, kind of.
I was trying to remember the last one that maintained, and I think Whit Merrifield was the last one who maintained for a while.
And he plays a totally different game.
Yeah,
he
maintained a late career breakout.
I mean, he obviously down the stretch I have all the numbers down the stretch that he did. Second in the National League with 72 hits, 324 batting average, and 930 OPS since he made his debut August 2nd. He just a lot of great numbers, but that to me is just equivalent of a hot stretch.
And so did Schwindel. And like I said, it is kind of lazy to just say that. I get that. Some people roll their eyes at that. But again, everything was there for Schwindel to be like, dude, yeah, he's 29, but he was so good down the stretch. This is why we say these are small samples. And when we talk in small samples, sub 100 games is still a small sample. Even 100 games is still a small sample. 56 is a tiny sample. It's relatively insignificant in terms of fully judging him. Do not bet on the 324. Do not bet on that power at that clip. Just be careful with Joey Meneses.
Doc, anything you would like to add? Because I know he's your fade.
You know what? When I said the name Joey Meneses out loud, I thought of Yermin Mercedes, another like flash. The names kind of sound similar. A flash in the pan who had his kind of resurgence or his late career breakout, later 20s. I mean, Spore mentioned even if he does hit with power, with the 13 homers last year, he only had 34 RBIs, and he had a 6.3 walk percentage. So you can't bang on that average again. You guys basically touched on everything else. One stolen base also.
Yeah, and then the last fade in this range, we were talking about Marty with Whit Merrifield. I know we talked about late breakouts. He was pretty much the only successful one, as we said before, but looks like he's kind of running out of gas here.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing, what we expect from Merrifield, because we're not going to get the power, right? So we expected a solid batting average, at 20 more stolen bases, and a good amount of runs because he usually hits at the top of the Royals lineup. You're not going to get any of those. Last year, he had a career low 240 XBA, and once he got traded to the Blue Jays, he only had one stolen base.
Yeah, he hit well, but they didn't run him. And they're not running.
One stolen base in 44 games. And so he's going to be hitting at the back end of the lineup, probably 8th or 9th. I mean, he might still be able to get you, a good batting average, but there's just no reason to go with that pick. And he's 34 now? Like,
yeah,
it's time to move on.
Yep.
Yeah,
I fully agree there.
The name value, I think, is the only reason he's even going where he's going at this point.
Well, I think a lot of people look at his season stats and like 16 home run or 16 stolen bases. That's not bad, but not realizing that like the context that all of them came for the Royals.
Yeah, and I don't think Toronto changes that for him, really. I mean, they let a few guys run like Bichette, Springer. I don't think that they want to let somebody like Whit Merrifield run. He's no Adelise. Adelise sucks too.
Bryan, he's coming. Paul's coming for you, man.
Fade Adelise. You could not pay me to draft Adelise.
Wow.
Yeah.
We should have had you on for the first episode.
No shot. Pure trash at outfield 16.
That's fantastic. Oh man, I know where you stand on him. But all right, last section here, the 51 to 60. Let's close this out, Paul. Give us your favorite 51 to 60 outfielder.
All right. Well, you could probably guess that Will Myers would be the guy. I'll go quick on him and go elsewhere because I haven't stopped talking about him all off season. Look, I'm a huge fan of that park. If you have an ounce of talent and you're in Cincinnati, Coors Jr., I'm interested. So again, this goes back to that adage I said earlier. All I need is health. And with Will Myers, that is a big question. He is not always healthy. In fact, he rarely is. But give me 130 games, and I think you can go Brandon Drury on that ass. So I'm interested in Will Myers. But I'll give a different guy there to kind of change it up a little bit and go Gavin Lux. I'm still bought in on this guy. Look, we're still talking about somebody who's going to be age 25 and just eclipsed 1,000 plate appearances. So he just kind of went over that big threshold there where you really start to make some judgments. He had his best year. It was only a 105 OPS plus with 6 homers, 7 steals. Nothing to write home about in 471 plate appearances. But I still think there's a ton of upside. I'm a pedigree guy. I believe in prospects, especially when they haven't really had their full chance yet. He still hasn't had a full season, which is 500 plus plate appearances to me. He's going into his first full season. The playing time is going to be there. I think Gavin Lux is going to break out. That lineup is a lot weaker than it's been in previous years. It's still good, though, with the Dodgers. So I think Gavin Lux, infield, outfield eligibility, I think he's going to have a really nice season for the Dodgers this year.
It wasn't just the pick of his giant arms.
No, I liked him before that. That doesn't even really move the needle for me, but it probably does for some folks. So hopefully it doesn't raise the price too much. But yeah, again, second in outfield too. I like infield, outfield eligibility. It's really fun.
Vinny brings a question here. Alex Kirilloff, I can tell you as a Twins fan, the wrist problems are just horrendous. And I think he's already having wrist problems already early before they even start the season, even though he just had that surgery. So
it's all that too, by the way. If he was healthy, I'd be here talking him up. But Alex Kirilloff with the wrist, until we get some sort of idea that there's any health there, it's a full fade for me, even at outfield 83.
100% with you there. LC, let's go back to you here and let's talk about your favorite in this range. And for this pick, you're talking about Benintendi. You said like.
Yeah, I like Benintendi.
Well, actually, you know what? Before you do your like, I just realized that your fade is Gavin Lux. So you're going head to head with Spore in back-to-back rounds. I don't know how you handled the beatdown from the last round. So I guess you're coming back for more. Go ahead.
I never admit defeat. That's how I handle it. That's how it goes. All right. I don't lose because the game is not over. I will drive to Austin and knock on his door to continue this conversation about Lars Nootbar.
We'll talk it over.
We'll chop it up. Gavin Lux, I mean, I really like, actually, if he gets shortstop, that sort of shortstop outfield eligibility, that's pretty rare. So if he's going to be the everyday shortstop, that sort of eligibility, dual eligibility, is pretty rare. There's a lot of second basemen who have multiple position eligibility. If he's the everyday shortstop, that does change the calculus. It gives him a lot more versatility because shortstop is kind of it's not very deep position as you get into like the 20s and 30s. So he gets a little bit more value. I don't see, like, the power's not there, the speed's not there. And I think, I'm not sure if he's going to be getting the plate appearances again. I'm big on getting runs plus RBIs.
Who are they going to play?
They
don't have that depth anymore. They got Trace Thompson penciled in their starting lineup right now, and David Peralta and James Outman. Like, I'm not worried about Miguel Rojas. He's there to back up in case they need to move, and they can move Lux to the outfield and play Miggy Rowe if they want to. I mean, short of a flop, I think there's no way Gavin Lux doesn't clear 500 plate appearances this year. Because if not, then why do you still have him? Like, give it up with him at that point. He's definitely playing. That's the one thing I have zero issue with is playing time for Lux.
Do you think he's going to? I agree with you. I think he's going to hit like 6th or 7th in the lineup, which is not in the Dodgers, who are going to score a lot. That's not terrible, but Yeah, I mean, I had him coming out pretty far below his pick. He's 53rd. I had him as like the 68th. So that's why I picked him, just because I don't think he's going to add up in statistics. I had him at over 500 plate appearances too. So, I think if he gets to 600, he's definitely going to be really good. But if he's at like 510, I think it's a wash on him being a good pick, and he doesn't give extra stuff.
Okay. Elsie, really good.
He hasn't. Yeah.
He has the pop. I think he's got the pop and the speed to be a real dynamic player.
All right. Well, Elsie, we're going to find out if Gavin Lux can prove you wrong, or if he proves you right here.
Mike Carter's in on Lux. See that?
Is he?
Yeah.
That'd be Mike.
He says they're listening in and he loves Lux. So it sounds like everybody's against you tonight, Elsie. It's okay. Stand your ground.
It's all right. I mean,
that's why
look who I pick. I like Andrew. I like Andrew Benintendi and Alex Verdugo, and I don't like the young guys. Obviously, I have a type. This is clear at this point. Yeah.
you like who you like. Is there anything you want to add on Benintendi real quick? Because we can just move on. I know we got a couple more guys.
Just Benintendi does have, I mean, he is the type of guy, he likes to run. He might be the type of guy who does get a little bit of a bump with the new rules and gets up to like the mid-teens. And because he does like to run, he's getting steals, and the power just went away last year. Hopefully there's a little bit of bounce back. It's a good place for power in Chicago. He's going to be hitting second in that lineup. So I think that's I think he's a good bet to return the value and give you more than where you're getting him.
All right, the White Sox going to let him run? Sorry, one last thing though. Are the White Sox really going to let him run? Because he's been pretty inefficient. He got back up to 8 for 11 last year after that 8 for 17 that I think was part injury problem there. The power can come back in that park. The Benintendi is someone I really liked last year. I thought he had some real breakout upside. He failed. And so I'm a little bit nervous about him this year. He consistently gets hurt. It's a good park, but I don't know if they're going to let him run. I know they have a new manager, so we don't know, but they're bottom 5 in steals the last 2 years. And I don't know that I still think steals are, they're definitely a manager thing, but they can be a front office thing too. And so I don't know. I think Benintendi's cheap enough to take the shot, but I don't know that he's going to be great. I think he's going to be kind of diet Verdugo.
Yeah.
That's fair enough. I think you, like you said earlier, Spore, you take one of the two of them, it's hard to take both of them. So I think that's a good lesson for many of our listeners this episode. You're probably going to be lacking a lot of areas if you take both of those guys here. So try to make sure that you know how your draft's going and you can pick up in the categories that you're going to need and not stack too many of these guys in there. Marty, your last guy you talked about, I know Paul touched on him for a second, and he's probably had some of the best helium. It slowed down a little bit, but Will Myers was somebody that was very popular and still is pretty popular. Yeah,
I've been talking about Myers for months now. I don't have to say anymore. And first base, outfield eligibility, he's hitting in second best hitters park in the game, batting 4th or 5th in that lineup. He can get you 20 home runs, 5 stolen bases with a decent batting average. I'm taking that every time. He just needs to stay healthy.
Yeah.
He can do a lot more than that too, to be honest.
He could.
I think you do like 30-12
if he can stay healthy
in a dream season.
I'm just assuming he's not going to stay healthy and still get you 20 homers.
Yeah,
5-7 steals.
He could do almost as much as Oscar Gonzalez.
He'll do a lot more than Oscar Gonzalez if we get
he's the phenom.
500 plus plate appearances, which he's only done. I mean, he did it in 2021. Myers did, but then previous to that was 2017. So that is the big gamble here. That's definitely how I lose this bet. But on skill, I do not.
We doesn't wear batting gloves. We
could do a minimum games. We could do a minimum games played.
I'm down for that.
Like a 120 minimum.
That's totally fine. That gives me a little protection there. I'm definitely down for that. But I think the straight up one too. That is my risk. But either way works for me. I'm in love Will Myers. A little bit more nervous about Ogons.
All right, Ogons. All right. So Will Myers definitely a popular breakout candidate, or not just say breakout, popular just draft candidate this year. Expected to do a big year with the Cincinnati Reds. Doc, your last pick of the players we like in this range being, I believe, who was it? It was Ramon
Laureano. So I have to hope that he doesn't get suspended this year for PEDs. I got to get that out of the way, because if he's a cheater, then this is a moot point. And I'm hoping he might get traded, but look, he hasn't been healthy or not suspended, but when he has 2020 upside. And when we look in 2022, played 94 games at 13-11, 88 games in 2021. He went 14-12, and then 123 games in 2019. he went 24-13. Last year, BABIP was 262, well below the 311 career average. And when he's played his most games in a season, 123-88, that's when he's actually had the lowest K percentage of his career. So he might be a guy that actually gets better as he sees more pitches. I just hope he stays healthy. I hope he goes to a good team. You guys remember when he led the majors in stolen bases the first month, I think of 2021, he had like 6 in April. That's the upside I think that we can see with him. He's still in his late 20s.
He dealt with like shin splints that year. So it was and it was like something that would go up and down in terms of how much it affected him. So he'd steal when it was feeling good and then not when it was. And so he's kind of all over the map. But yeah, I mean, I like the Laureano pick. Again, you're looking to spike the health. I think the talent's there. It's a matter of if you can get that health, and you can get a 2020 season out of him. You really can, even in that park.
And the A's are rebuilding. Like they wouldn't be doing justice to keep him on the team. He's 28 years old. I think he needs a fresh start.
Could be. Yeah, I mean, sure, if he's producing, they'll move him.
He's like the only person they haven't traded who's decent.
Well,
Yeah, I was gonna say he's on his last year of the contract with him. He's an unrestricted.
He's
free agent.
good. He's gone.
No. He's good. He's ARB eligible. It's a 1-year deal, but he's ARB eligible through 25. So they've still got some time to figure it out.
You're right.
So I think they want him to rehab his value for Laureano, so then they can trade him at more of a height. So if he gets out to a fast start, don't be surprised if he goes to a better team, and that would really improve things. Because otherwise, you could be looking at a 2020 season, which is homers, steals, runs, and ribbies, because that team blows offensively.
I'm going to make a bold claim right now that he's going to be a New York Yankee by the trade deadline.
That could
He could be a Dodger.
I like the Dodger call too.
Yeah, I think one of those two teams need an outfielder, and they'll acquire him. So we'll see what happens.
If he goes off, if Laureano goes off, I think he gets traded within this year. They're waiting till the value spikes back up, though.
Yeah, agreed. My player for this range to close out the favorite part, Bryan De La Cruz. He had a 1.137 OPS in September, third best in baseball, only behind Aaron Judge and Julio Rodriguez. He also led all of baseball with a 44% sweet spot rate. Number 2 was Freddie Freeman, just talking about hitting nice line drives. Obviously, if it's not necessarily a home run. And if you look at his StatCast page, 96th percentile in expected batting average, 94th percentile expected slug, 86th percentile hard hit rate. Those are just some really juicy numbers. And if you want great numbers, also from September, a 388, 419, 718 slash with 6 home runs, 10 doubles, and 22 RBIs. I think he's going to be one of the better hitters for the Marlins this year. And I think you're getting him at a tremendous value here in this range. He's somebody you can round out your outfielder, get as like, again, 4th, 5th outfielder, and you're sitting pretty. Bryan De La Cruz is going to be one of the better hitters on a team that needs hitting this year. All right. Last round. This is going to be our quick lightning round of the players we're fading here. I will kick this off because mine is very simple. I'm taking the free square. Randal Grichuk. 6. He just got the injury, so that's obviously going to knock him down. But even just more than that, I'm sure you guys know that not a great season last year. 19 home runs, a 259 batting average. He had a 205 batting average and 6 home runs on the road last season. Really didn't do nothing outside of Coors Field. I don't think he's anybody's target.
I think 19 home runs, like what he did last year was his good season. You know,
19 home runs playing in Coors Field. I think we expect.
Yeah, he's not good. He wasn't really good on the Blue Jays when they needed anybody, and they still weren't playing him in that hitter's park. So,
well,
he hasn't been good. He wasn't even good on the Cardinals. I've been hating Grichuk for years.
All right, so we all hate Grichuk. That's what we're getting out of this. We all hate Grichuk.
Sucks.
All right, this is where I'm glad we're all coming together on our hatred of Randal Grichuk. Spore, you can go ahead and give us your fade for this next section.
All right, so when I did it wrong and I did just draft champions, Esteury Ruiz counted for that. But so he's 62 when I do the right one. So I'll just say him very quickly. He's a steals only guy, going to be empty as hell. No runs, no rubbies in Oakland. Don't fall for these guys. They're bad hitters. I think they're a trap. But the other guy I'll take is also, I think, a little bit of a free square. We haven't seen him play for like 42 years. I don't know what the hell to expect out of Michael Conforto. I'm sure I'm not going to pay for it. In San Francisco, used to be a G, but he's got like, his shoulder is held together by shredded wheat. I'm out, fully out.
And Marty, you are too.
And yeah, I mean, he hasn't even played in a year, and then he's coming back to the Giants.
2 years, right? Like, wasn't his last time he played? Like, was the
2020?
Season,
Yeah,
right?
It was weeks
Which
ago.
That's not even a real thing. Like 2020, like it doesn't even matter. So 2019 is the last time we saw him, and he was badass then. But again, he's been through like 412 shoulder injuries since then.
It's like the Giants went shopping for all the good outfielders, and it's like they're like TVs, and like all the new TVs get taken. By the time you get to the store, there's only the damaged TV left on the shelf.
They're
like, I gotta
late to
get
the
a
Black
TV.
Friday sale.
Yeah,
exactly. And
Yeah.
all the crap was left. Or they were looking at a 2019 book. They're like, these guys are awesome. Let me get this guy.
Mitch Haniger and
Yeah, and I like Haniger a bit more, but he also has those health issues where he's just kind of consistently getting hurt. But he can be good. So yeah, but with Conforto, I just even though the price doesn't seem crazy, I just can't do it.
And Eric, his teammate Joc Pederson as well. You're out on him.
Out on Young Joc Pederson. I can't think of a guy that's more streaky than him. The 274 batting average last year was a career high for him. Before it was 249. That was helped by the 310 BABIP, which was 268 for his career. Now you look, he hits the ball really hard. Average EV 98th, percentile max EV 87th, hard hit 98, barrel 95. But when you're striking out as much as he does, he's only hit 30 home runs once in his career. He had 36 in the bouncy ball era, but still only topped out at 74 RBIs. I just don't like the premium that you're paying for him. I think he's somebody that is a good streamer in shallower leagues in a home league, and you ride him when he isn't platooning, but I just can't take him where he's at in that 51-60 range.
All right, fair enough. I think that's pretty much going to be all of the guys we're going to talk about for this episode. I want Paul to get back to his Twitch streamers over there.
All those people are just sitting there waiting.
I know. As you told him an hour, we kept you longer than that.
It's totally fine. No problem.
But Paul, man, thanks so much for coming on the show, talking some outfielders with us. This is over a year since we last had you on, so I felt like it was long overdue to get you back on here. Appreciate your time, and please plug all the great work you're doing right now because the people need to know.
Thank you, gentlemen. It's always great talking with you. I love the pod. I enjoyed the one with Justin as well. You guys embarrassed him, which is not hard to do, but you gotta cut him up, put him back down to size. You can follow me on Fangraphs. I'm the Rotographs, the lead editor over there, writer and podcaster, Sleeper in the Bust, Twitch partner over on Twitch, twitch.tv/Spore, content designer at OOTP Baseball. We're gonna have the OOTP 24 coming out in March. Can't say exactly what date yet, but it's going to be coming out soon. And again, if you like baseball, check out my Twitch stream because, like I said, I'll be doing baseball all year, all times of day too, morning, noon, and night. Man does as much in the baseball space as anybody out there. So again, make sure you check out his Twitter page, his Twitch page, everything he's doing at Fangraphs. Again, Paul does so much great stuff. A great ambassador of the community. So you guys need to make sure. I'm sure you guys, everybody that's listening already knows who Paul Sporer is. So I don't need me to tell you guys that, but again, one of the best out there. Paul, you are the man. Thank you again. And of course, thank you guys for following Triple Play Fantasy. If you guys, please give the video a like on YouTube, leave a comment below, talk about how awesome Paul's mustache is or his lighting. Anything you want to leave there is awesome in the comments. If you're on the podcast version, or you could wonderful woman. Leave a comment about how wonderful Marty's mom is. It's all good.
And hop into the League 3 of the Triple Players Ball if you get a chance.
That's right.
That's right. Yeah, we're filling up League 3 for Triple Players Ball. Make sure you guys do that. And yeah, that's it for the night. So thank you guys for Doc, for Paul, for a little cheesecake for Marty Party. I'm DMendy. We're going to make like a bread truck and we're going to haul these buns. Catch you guys next week.